Time wasting is one of the issues that the ICC, cricket's governing body, has tried multiple ways of tackling. Now it's come out with a short manner in which it has decided to go forward, and starting the 1st of June now, which is also going to be the start of the T20 World Cup, you are going to be seeing this new rule being put into force. It has been put on trial over the last 6 to 8 months now, but now those rules have been consolidated. What is this new rule about? Well, to begin with, it's called the stop clock rule, and it's been introduced so as to curb any time wasting tactics which teams have been deploying over the last since quite some time now, let's just say. Now, to curb that particular instinct of bowling teams, the ICC has come out with the stop clock rule. Let's tell you firstly what this rule is all about. Everything we'll explain what this rule entails, and yes, there are a few exceptions as well that you'll have to keep in mind. So let's tell you everything about this rule, starting with what the rule is all about. Now, fielding side is going to be expected to start a new over within 60 seconds of the completion of the previous over. Now, we've seen, yes, with spinners it of course tends to get easy at times, but we've seen, let's say when there's a pacer operating at one and a spinner at the other, things get tricky at times. Captains end up taking too long, or there's multiple round of discussions that take place, or if there's two pace bowlers operating at both ends, such situations often we've seen, captains take too long, or the fielding sides take too long to start or get on with the next over. That's not going to be the case anymore. In 60 seconds you are expected to start the new over once the over has ended. That's part one of what this rule is all about. Let's also tell you how this is going to function. We have this picture for you because this is exactly what you're going to be seeing. You're going to be seeing on the giant screen which every stadium has these days, you're going to be seeing a clock. You're going to be seeing a stopwatch of sorts being started immediately after an over ends. Let's tell you about the rule now. Now, an electronic clock, which is going to look something like this, is going to be counting down from 60 to 0. It will also be displayed on the ground with the onus on the third umpire to determine the start of the clock. So that particular right remains with the third umpire as to when he deems to take into consideration the end point of an over, whether it's the ball being thrown, let's say, from the fielder and gets collected by the bowler or the wicket keeper, or if it's the fall of the wicket. So that particular power remains with the third umpire and not the on-field umpire. But once that decision's been made, the clock then begins. 60 seconds to 0. That's going to be the timer for teams that they will have to adhere, and the clock will be counting down then from 60 to 0, within which the next over must begin. Let's also tell you what the penalty then is going to look like. If as a fielding side, if you're not adhering to that, this is what will happen. Then failure to adhere will attract 2 warnings. So the first 2 times there is a breach, let's say, you will get a warning. There isn't a penalty to begin with immediately, but after 2 times, if there is a breach the third time, let's say, that's when you get penalized as the fielding side, because subsequent breaches will lead to a 5-run penalty per incident. So let's say if I'm doing 2 more breaches in totality, for the first 2 times I get warned, but the next 2 times there is a 5-run penalty per incident. So as a fielding side, there is a 10-run disadvantage that I have, because those 10 runs will then be awarded to the batting side. So advantage to the batting side, disadvantage to the fielding side, only 2 times. So that's the threshold. You can at the most breach this particular rule twice. Anything beyond that, you're attracting a penalty, and that will mean 10 runs if there are 2 breaches, let's say, happening. So 5 runs per breach being awarded to the batting side. So this is how this rule is now going to be enforced starting the 1st of June, and not just in T20 or the shortest format of the game. This rule is going to be applicable across white ball formats. So both in T20s and 50 over cricket, you are going to be seeing the stop clock rule being applied. Let's tell you about the exceptions, though. There are 4 exceptions which you will have to keep in mind. Let's tell you about those exceptions. Well, when a new batter comes to the wicket between the overs, that is going to be one exception, because remember, batters have more time to get to the crease than, of course, the stipulated 1 minute that's been given to the bowling sides to ensure that the change of bowlers take takes place. So that is exception number 1. Exception number 2 being an official drinks interval, which also tends to be greater than 1 hour. The other 2 exceptions over here being that umpires have approved the on-field treatment of an injury which can happen to anyone, be it the batting side, fielding side, if there is an interruption of greater than 2 minutes. But in such an instance, there is a player getting treatment, in that case this rule will not apply. And lastly, if there is time lost or because of any circumstance that is beyond the control of the fielding side, let's say there is an intervention being made by somebody, if there is an intruder, let's say, that gets onto the field, or any instance, let's say it could be a light drizzle, it could be anything that leads to a bit of a delay in play, in such circumstances as well the rule will not apply. So those were the exceptions, but as fielding sides you've got to be ready to ensure that there is a switch of overs, if there is a change of bowlers, and you will have only 60 seconds, be it at the start of the innings, be it at the end of the innings, across the innings, let's say, you will have to ensure as the captain, as the fielding captain, that a new bowler is in place, then a new over begins, and you only got 60 seconds to ensure that. Otherwise there is going to be penalty now, and you will be at a disadvantage if you breach the rule more than twice. So that is something that teams will have to be very cautious of, and very interesting because the ICC feels that it can save up to 20 minutes in one-day international. Remember, for good 6 to 8 months the rules been put on trial in an England-West Indies match as well. This was something that was seen in the month of December as well. So it's been tried out a few times now, and up to 20 minutes is what ICC feels what can be saved in a one-day international. In fact, in T20Is as well, the ICC is of the firm opinion that you will end up saving time as well. Let's see if this makes any sort of a difference, and if captains really change the way that they approach the game. That is something we'll have to wait and watch.